Chapter 1. Why Boundaries Matter. Setting boundaries is of vital importance in the effort of raising respectful children. Children need to know who is in charge and what the limits are. Children will test those limits to see if the boundaries are firm, but once they realize that the boundaries aren't changing, they will fall in line. Too often, parents make the mistake of trying to be their child's best friend. Although it is important for families to have fun together and for children to trust their parents and enjoy being around them, parents should not aim to be their child's best friend. Parents need to be willing to be firm and strong and willing to make decisions their children do not like. If a parent is too afraid to tell a child no or discipline a child out of fear that they will not be friends anymore, the child has actually done a disservice because of this lack of discipline. A child without boundaries is left to try and figure out how to behave, including what is acceptable and unacceptable. This is not fair to the child. Children need to know what to do, what to expect, and where those boundaries are. A case study in boundaries. When Lisa was 23 years old, she found out she was pregnant as the result of a one-night stand. She did not love the father of her child and knew that she did not want to marry him, so she broke off the relationship with him and made the decision to be a single mother. She had the support of her parents and other extended family, and she knew that the road ahead of her was a difficult one, but she also knew she could do it. Lisa gave birth to her daughter Veronica, surrounded by her close family. She loved her daughter immediately and quickly focused on how much fun she would have with the little girl. Lisa still lived at home with her parents, and she and Veronica went home and got settled into Lisa's bedroom. Lisa was happy to have the support of her parents and relieved to not have to worry about trying to pay rent and other living expenses for her own apartment. But she soon started seeing some of the problems that came with living at home with a child of her own. Lisa's parents were helpful, but a lot of times Lisa felt as if her mother was trying to take over. Lisa admits that at times she did let her mom take over and she welcomed the break. But as Veronica got older, the situation became more confusing. If Lisa tried to discipline Veronica, Lisa's mom would get upset because as a grandmother, she didn't want to see her grandchild disciplined. Veronica, being a very smart child, started to catch on to the dynamic and would run to her grandmother to avoid being punished. Lisa eventually met and married a man named Paul. Paul agreed to raise Veronica as his own child, but for the first few years, there was a lot of confusion and tension in the family. Lisa did not want Paul to be an authority figure in Veronica's life, and she would prevent him from disciplining her. It got to the point where if Paul said no, Lisa would just say yes. These situations were clearly represented in Veronica's behavior. She was a very defiant child, and the word no meant nothing to her. She would scream to get what she wanted, had no qualms about destroying things, and would frequently run and hide from her parents in public places. She was very disrespectful with all adults, including her grandparents and teachers. Most people did not enjoy having Veronica around, and Lisa and Paul found their social lives diminishing because they were not invited places, largely due to Veronica's behavior. Lisa and Paul realized that the situation needed to change. They worked out the issues in their marriage that were causing a lot of the tension, and they committed to setting firm and reasonable boundaries for Veronica. They set down rules and consequences and agreed to support each other. They did not let Veronica divide them. Although it has taken a few years, there is an amazing difference in Veronica's behavior now. She has responded very well to the boundaries and knows what is expected of her. She is much more pleasant to be around now, and the whole family is a lot happier. Paul and Lisa even have a social life now. Step-by-step guide to setting boundaries. Number 1, remember that your child needs a parent, not a friend. Number 2, talk with your spouse and make sure that you are both on the same page about raising your child. If you are not, your children will see this and exploit it. Even if you're divorced, it is important that the rules are consistent between both parents. If you are a single mother, you need to make sure that any other adults in the life of your child support the boundaries you have placed. Number 3, make firm rules you want your child to follow. For example, in my house, the rule is the television is not turned on until the house is clean. My kids know this, and if they want to watch television, they clean the house first. Number 4, make consequences for breaking the rules and make sure that consequences are going to be effective for your child. For example, my oldest son is obsessed with baseball. He knows that if he breaks a rule, he will lose his baseball cards for an amount of time. My daughter, however, knows that her punishment will be a timeout because a timeout is more effective for her. Number 5, sit down with your child and clearly explain the rules and the consequences. Number 6, be prepared to give a reason for the rules that you have set down. This will help your child understand why you set the rules in the first place and may make them more apt to abide by those rules. Number 7, be consistent. Your children will test you. They will check to see if you mean what you say. If you do not follow through, you are just making things more difficult for yourself. Number 8, be consistent. I know I said this in step 7, but it is extremely important, so I'm repeating it here. Be consistent. What not to do. Do not laugh at inappropriate behavior. If you laugh at inappropriate behavior, you will only encourage your child to continue in the behavior. This is a lesson that I have learned the hard way. When my middle son was 3, he was sitting at the table eating dinner. He wanted dessert, but he had not yet finished the food on his plate. I told him he needed to finish his broccoli before he could have dessert. He said he didn't want to, and I told him that he would not have dessert until the broccoli was off of his plate. 3 seconds later, he said, "There, dessert time." I turned around, and he had thrown the broccoli on the floor. It caught me by surprise, and so I laughed. After I laughed, I tried to discipline him, but for a week afterwards, every dinner resulted in something being thrown on the floor by one of our children, and then laughing and expecting me to laugh too. Do not undermine your spouse. Make sure that you and your spouse are on the same team. Do not be afraid to be the bad guy. There are going to be times when you must tell your child no, and your child will not like this. He or she will get mad and even think you're mean. However, you need to be willing to put your foot down and do what is best for your child. After all, you know why your child should not sit up all night watching television, but he or she only thinks you are out to ruin the fun. Memorize the idea that they'll get glad as quickly as they get mad, and then let it go. Concepts to remember. Be consistent. Make the rules clear. Make the consequences clear. And don't try to be your child's best friend.